started. Thank you, Erin. Again, my name is Ann Haig. I am the Director of Certification for the Bluegrass chapter of the IIBA, and I'd like to personally thank everyone for taking time out of your schedules on this short holiday week to join us today. So before I introduce our guest speaker, I do have a few housekeeping items. First of all, our upcoming BABIC study group, which is a virtual study group, it's going to take place on Monday and Thursday evenings, beginning September 25th and running through November 16th. We will be sharing a discount code in the chat today that will unlock a special rate for all of our certification chat attendees. That offer does end on September 15th, though, which is next Friday. So if you're planning on joining us for the study group, please be sure and register before that time to take advantage of those special rates. And we'll also be sharing the registration link for the study group, as well as some networking links in the chat today. So please be sure and keep an eye out for those. So I think that's it for the housekeeping. I did mention that we will be sharing a link to today's presentation via email tomorrow for everyone that's in attendance. So I guess at this time, I'd like to ask you to please allow me to introduce our guest speaker, Meredith Neuman. And I should probably say, just full transparency, Meredith is not only a champion of the BA profession, she is also my mentor and team lead. So I do have the privilege of learning from her on a daily basis, and she has made my transition from healthcare to automated material handling very rewarding. She definitely understands that the skills that we develop as business analysts can be leveraged across many domains, and that has really helped my transition. I just can't say enough about her. She leads by example and displays professionalism and exceptionalism in everything that she does. So I think on that note, Meredith, I will turn it over to you.
Well, thanks, Ann. That's so kind of you to say that. Thanks everybody for joining today and allowing me to kind of speak a little bit about my certification journey and my experience, in the hopes that it'll help you on your journey as well. You know, I think my story is a little bit different. You know, several years ago, I joined the business analysis profession, really by transitioning career fields. I spent the majority of my early career in higher education administration, and then joined a startup student information system company where I started to meet with school owners and administrators in really more of a business analysis capacity, before my current position as a business systems analyst team lead. So really, once I started at my current employer, I realized, you know, there is this entire standardized process, all of these requirements gathering techniques, lots of information that I needed to get up to speed so that I could be successful in my current role. So I think that was really my main motivation for looking to the IIBA. Also, I'm really thankful that I do have an employer that encouraged me to pursue certification, which makes a big difference. And I think that there's, lots of benefits in expanding your network, meeting with other business analysts in other industries, and also just being part of a professional organization that is committed to continued improvement and mastery of the business analysis profession. So I think that was, really the main driving force for wanting to get certified. So I am certified as a CCBA. A little bit about the studying process and exam process. I completed the 21 hours of professional development courses required for CCBAs. I did complete all of those online, really over the course of maybe a year and a half or so. Not that it was not terrible. I would not recommend. I was just talking to Ann the other day how I wish I had taken, one of the exam prep classes offered by the IIBA, just so that I had a dedicated, committed time to focus on studying. So my focus kind of, waned and waxed over the course of a year to prepare, and really started ramping up, I'd say probably 6 months before I sat for the exam. I was also really lucky enough to have a work colleague who was interested in sitting for the ECBA. So we kind of decided to attack the BABIC a couple different ways. I bought a paper copy, which, we get the PDF as a member, which is great, but I do, enjoy being able to mark it up and highlight and underline. So I did end up reading it several times. I think it did take me a while to understand the structure of the BABIC. It's, it was just all very new to me. And then with my study buddy, my work colleague, we decided to split it up really chapter by chapter and take a chapter each week. And then we would meet each week for a couple of hours and we would review the material together, quiz each other, make flashcards, which was very helpful. I do learn really well independently though. So after we got through the BABIC that way, I read it again and took handwritten notes, which is just, how I, my own personal learning method, highlighted key concepts, and then also really utilized the IIBA's Knowledge Hub. There's lots of information on there. There were really good practice questions so that I could kind of gauge where I was in the study process. And then another thing that really helped, during the exam for the CCBA, you're allowed to have one 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So I wanted to really be strategic about, identifying a brain dump, right? So you have all of these mnemonics that you can try and teach yourself to memorize the material, which I found to be very helpful. And then, when the exam started, I could go in and write everything down that I had memorized to really serve as a guide. And really, it's just a confidence booster throughout the exam that I could reference as needed. So that's a little bit about, how I studied and prepared for the exam.
Thank you, Meredith. So, from those of you that are out there, I've talked with a couple of you via email over the course of the past couple of weeks. And so I know kind of where you're at in your certification journey and where you are in your BA profession. Some of you are just transitioning into the BA profession. So if there are any questions, specific questions related to where you're at in your journey and if there's any specific advice that you'd like to seek out from Meredith, please either feel free to drop us a question or a message in the chat, or feel free to speak out. We're happy to open it up for discussion, with all of our attendees in the panel.
This is Kathy, and I'd just like to add a piece of advice.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So typically, if you, for the attendees at our study groups, I always offer to analyze your resume, because for the reason being that if you're looking to get a certification, oftentimes you actually have untitled business analysis activities and work that you've done in your career that you may not really be aware that will count as business analysis professional hours. So and you definitely want to go for the highest certification that you can, that you qualify for, because all of the exams are hard, right? The ECBA is hard, the CCBA is hard, the CBAP is hard. They're all really hard. So you want to kind of go for the highest certification that you can. So I just wanted to say, and I'm happy to, if you want to email me, your resume, if you're an attendee here and you're interested, I'll be happy to take a look at it for you. Just put your email in the chat window and I'll email you. Or I can put my email in the chat.
I did
email it to me. Yeah, pardon?
What's your sponsorship email?
Yeah, I'll do that. So yeah, because like I said, it's not that difficult for me to do. I've been doing it for quite a while. So, analyzing resumes. So,
and for those that
I'm
don't
done.
know, Kathy Lee is a past president of the chapter, and she's serving as vice president of sponsorship at the moment. She is CBAP, so she's got the wealth of experience and can review your resume for you.
Yeah, and I had previously been a project and program manager, and then I and then I started teaching night school and all that kind of stuff. And I had absolutely no problem, even though I never had the title of business analysis, I had no problem coming up with all with way more than the required number of hours to apply for a CBAP. So.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, Kathy. And that's a great point, because a lot of us, especially those who have been introduced to the BABIC for the first time as we're studying and preparing for our certification, a lot of these, sometimes it's not so easy to see, the connections between the different types of activities that are expressed in the BABIC and the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. So I think, that service that Kathy offers is not only valuable in making sure that, you are sitting for the highest level exam that you're qualified to take, but also helps you to kind of understand that everything isn't always black and white, that there are areas where our skill set can transition into specific areas that we didn't even realize, we were doing. So, the whole process really brings a sense of formality to the things that we do on a daily basis. And having Kathy, work with you to kind of identify some of those areas and skill sets, it just helps broaden the way that you view the BABIC in general. Because as Meredith mentioned, I also had, one of the tasks and one of the challenges that we have to overcome is, understanding what the structure of the BABIC is. And I think once you kind of get into that rhythm and you understand the information that's being presented, you'll start to see patterns. But, adding that a little extra context that Kathy was mentioning, and trying to kind of see things outside of the black and white will really help you to absorb the information in a different way.
Okay. If you didn't notice, Anne, earlier, we are international audience today, and that Lesbia is from South Africa.
I see that now, Johannesburg. Thank you for joining and welcome.
So for those that aren't familiar with the IIBA certification program, there are 7 certifications that IIBA currently offers, and I'm sure there's going to be more in the future. The 3 first ones that came out, and that there are 3 that they consider core certifications, which are for general business analysis. The other 4 are specialized in agile business data analytics and things of that nature. So our BABIC study group and this certification chat covers the 3 core certifications. Those are the ECBA, the entry certificate in business analysis. The CCBA, which Meredith has, is our certification of capability in business analysis. Make sure I get those words right. And the CBAP is the senior level one. It's the Certified Business Analysis Professional, which a few people here on I see, have that, as well as Ann and myself have that one. These are not, we've been talking about all 3 of these. These are not a stair step thing. You don't have to get them in order. If you're very senior BA or a mid-level BA, you do not have to get the ECBA first, then the CCBA, then the CBAP. If you got the experience, you can document the experience. If you've got the professional development hours, you meet all the requirements to sit for the CBAP, then go for that one, first and everything. And you can do that, be a lot less fees and everything for you to pay and all of that. Our BABIC study group does cover,
and a lot less exams too,
because it is all 3 of them are based on the BABIC, or the business analysis body of knowledge guide, which was published by IIBA and that. If you're wondering which one you should get of those 3, I did post in the chat. We have a little survey type thing, a questionnaire that you can answer and ask you what, what kind of experience you have, how much knowledge you have of the BABAC and that, and kind of guides you. I mean, it's not a absolute, but it gives you a suggestion on which of those three you should get at this point in your career. And so I also did want to clarify something Meredith said about having a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper when you sit and take the exam. You are allowed to have that. And I think I've heard Bill say, so Bill, back me up on this. That piece of paper has to be blank when you start the exam, and you can. So if it's not blank, you're bringing in notes. They don't want you to do that.
Yeah.
So
they give you a piece of paper, but you have to
if
actually
you're at a testing center, yes.
and it tests right, and then
And
after
yeah,
you start the exam, you can start writing. I started writing before I literally started the exam, and they took it away from me.
so when you start the exam, that clock starts, and it's 3.5 hours for the CBAP, 3 hours for the CCBA. It's 1 hour, isn't it? 1 hour for the ECBA.
CCBA.
I believe. That clock is in on top right corner of your display where you're answering the questions and everything. So I guess they want that clock to start before you do your brain dump.
Yeah, that's a good point, Aaron. I should have mentioned that. Bring the paper with me.
They're going to take that piece of paper away from you when you leave. And or if you're taking this online, you can take all three of these exams online. The ECBA you can only take online. So you cannot go to a testing center and take the ECBA, but the CCBA and the CBAP you could do either way. But if you're online, they'll make you destroy the paper, tear it up and all of that. If you're at a testing center, they'll take it away from you. They don't want you taking notes away from the exam either. So everything has to be done within that, time frame of 3.5 hours or to 1 hour. And you're not allowed to bring in stuff. You're not allowed to take stuff away. So was it you, Bill, or somebody told me they went to a testing center and they were taking the exam? They checked them to make sure that the glasses they were wearing were not Google glasses.
Yep.
So,
they checked my glasses too. Yeah.
Yep.
did they?
They did. Yeah.
I've heard all the stories of people having to roll up their pants legs.
Oh, I had to do that too.
Yep.
All that, make sure
Roll up my pants legs, turn out my pockets, all that kind of stuff.
And they
So,
want you.
these are professional, certification exams and that, and they're treated as such. And I will say the testing centers are not ran by IIBA; they're ran by their exam delivery partner. And their name's PSI. So IIBA is not in charge of those; they're just a vendor, for the exam. So we talked a lot. Any other questions from the audience? Did you have any questions of Meredith, or want to know anything about the process, how to study, how to prepare? And of course, we're going to say that study group that Ann just put in the chat is an excellent one. It is a structured way.
Yes.
I will say this, it is a structured way. If you want other students, if you want an instructor to ask questions of as we go through the material and that, we also have homework with each session, that really brings out the points in each chapter that are really important in that. It also gives you 4 practice test experiences throughout, sessions throughout the things are absolute practice tests over 1 or 2 chapters or 3 chapters or that. And then the final session is a practice exam experience for the student. We've made the exam and we test the students depending on whether you're going for the ECBA or the CCBA or the CBAP. And we have 2 tests, the ECBA test and the CBAP test. So ECBA is targeted for entry level, people that don't have BA experience or very little, that don't qualify for the CCBA or the CBAP. So we don't expect you to, have that wealth of experience to draw on, and the competency level of the questions are for that beginner type BA. The CCBA is targeted for someone with 2.5 to 3 years experience in business analysis. When you do do the application, you have to document that you have that many hours of BA experience. And then, as I said earlier, the CBAP is the senior level, targeted for people with 5 or more years experience. And again, you documented that and everything. I see Deborah's got her hand up, so I'll quit talking. Do you have a question, Deborah?
We see that you're not muted, but we don't hear you.
Testing.
Maybe put it in the chat, possibly.
Yeah, if your microphone's not working, you could put it in chat. Sorry. Okay. All right.
So while we're waiting for the question to possibly come up, another thing about the study group is we do offer it's always been a popular kind of a little break a few sessions in. We have these small group mentoring sessions, which really allows you to kind of get the feel for the study group and for the BABIC, and to kind of see, where you feel like you need more help. And those small group mentoring sessions are just little breakout sessions where you'll have dedicated time with a certified, member of our organization, or from our business community. And you'll really be able to, just kind of have a one-on-one for a couple of hours. And that's always been a real popular kind of a, event that we throw in after a couple of weeks worth of sessions. So that's another benefit that allows you to network and kind of get some of those more difficult questions answered without, outside of the large group setting. Okay, so Deborah does have a question. She's asking what a typical class looks like. Do we start with chapter 1 and move on? Yes, that is correct. Yeah, we do progress through each chapter of the BABIC. We do not spend a lot of time on perspectives. That's something that you will not be tested on any of the 3 exams, but we will cover, within each of the chapters, we will cover a series of techniques. There's not a dedicated session for techniques, but we will talk about those as they apply to the different knowledge areas as we move through the study group.
You want to add anything to that, Meredith?
Yeah, I would just like to reiterate, I think that the test questions would be invaluable, the practice exam. One of the biggest challenges that I faced, because I did do, mostly self-study past, the professional development hours, is that it was difficult to gauge, how successful I was going to be on the exam. That was, maybe the most difficult thing for me to kind of identify the areas that I needed to spend some more time on. And I think, if I'd had some additional practice questions, practice exams, then I could really hone in on those chapters or knowledge areas that I needed to spend some more time with. So, and I will say, when they send you the results of the exam, you can see which knowledge areas you scored higher versus lower on. And so that would have just been, I think, really helpful to identify those.
Yeah, and we
That's
actually do have a great student story to tell about that and everything. And it was actually from our product owner analysis study group, which we concluded like 2 months ago. And we had I think it was one guy and a few ladies were the students in that, but he scored like an 80 on our practice exam for the product ownership analysis thing. And when we sent him the domain breakdown and everything, we said, go sit for your exam tomorrow. And because he got an 80 on our score.
Yeah.
And he took it like, it was within a month. He took it and passed it first time. And that, so it was a really good gauge of how ready he was to take that exam.
And I also just want to add too, I think it would have been really helpful to have somebody to ask questions, right? And as Ann was saying, to provide an introduction of the structure. You know, just reading the BABAC yourself, it took me a while to kind of understand and identify the structure. So that definitely would have, I think, sped up that process for me had I taken the study group. So
yeah, and one of the
definitely
things
good.
that we do to help the students understand the structure is we give you study sheets for the BA BOC, and you fill them in, and once you do that, man, you know, you understand the structure.
Yep.
So, yeah,
It doesn't
if
take
you're
long.
writing things down, you retain it longer. And that's why we do that. And so, as far as what does a typical class look like, Deborah asked. So it's a lecture, it's instruction type by one or more of our instructors that are CBAP or CCBA or what, you know, that goes through the material of the chapter. Also give you little examples of their experience in that to add to it. It's discussion, so you know, depends on how many students are in the class. You know, there could be discussion about a particular point, and we always encourage students to, hey, if you're confused about this, you need more clarification, or you just want to understand it better, ask, you know, why we're going through, and we'll have that discussion of all the students. That is actually one of the requirements for professional development hours from IIBA is interaction with the instructor, interaction with the other students in the class. So, you know, we do offer it. Our study group gives you all 35 professional development hours you need for the CBAP. So that discussion and everything that happens in class is pretty important, but we do go through it chapter by chapter. There will be an agenda or schedule, what chapters we are covering on what day, and that, and the small group mentoring session Ann mentioned earlier is one of those sessions in that. And that is basically where we bring in other CBAP, CCBAs, ECBAs from the chapter, and we divide the students into small groups and that, so you get more face time and be able to ask your questions to somebody who's been there, done that, and, you know, see what their experience was, what their journey, what they thought about the exam, the application process, any of that information you're allowed to ask to any of our mentors, you know, and get that comfort level that you're going to go in there and you're going to pass it the first time.
I did put the discount code in the chat for those of you who are considering joining and registering for our upcoming study group. So, you know, as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, that special rate does end a week from today. So be sure and grab that discount code from the chat. And if you're planning on joining us for this upcoming study group, please be sure and take advantage of that before next Friday.
Deborah's so interested in this. She's in
Oh,
her-
yes. I think I fixed it. Can you guys hear me?
Oh,
We can.
hear you.
I had to switch
Yeah.
computers. Sorry. So I am interested, but I just found out yesterday I might have to miss like the first class. So I'm just wondering, do you send an agenda? Do you like record the class? Like what could I do so I don't miss that?
Yes and yes.
I felt like I was so upset. I'm like, yeah, it just happened at the same time. And I've been looking forward to this class because I actually belong to the Hartford chapter and they don't do anything like this. And they suggested you guys. So I too have been like holding onto the book for 6 months and haven't really gotten far by myself. So I'm hoping this like study group helps me like, get the material and get it
well,
done.
Well, thank you, Hartford. But yes, if you missed the first session or any session in between, we don't want you missing half the sessions. You do lose something from not being in the
Right.
class and that, and just listening to the recording afterwards. First of all, we do not give you professional development hours if all you're doing is listening to the recording afterwards. But we record all sessions, so if you happen to have to miss, you can always catch up. Plus, you're doing your homework, you're doing the study sheets, and all of that. So, yeah. So, the first session certainly it's the introduction. It's not a super big deal if you miss that one. It will be recorded as well. We put them on a page in our website that's dedicated to that group of students in that study group. They're the only ones that get to see it and everything. So, but it'll be available for you. There will be an agenda or a schedule for each. It's 14 sessions, 35 professional development hours. And that is sent to you before the first session.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, I'm excited for the study and the homework because I feel like I just haven't really been motivated enough myself to go through it. And I'm okay with missing a couple of the hours because I've been going to meetings, so I can count that. So I think I'd be okay with the 35 hours, meeting that requirement. But okay, so I was just worried about the classes I might miss due to work traveling. So I guess that I feel better about that. I was a little nervous last night when I found out, but
Okay.
better, yeah. And do most people take the test like right after the study group, or do they continue studying for another month or so?
It really depends on the student. We've had students come through and take the study group and they may score fairly well on our practice exam and that, but they never follow through and get the exam or get the actual certification. We had one that got the CBAP earlier this year, 2 years after she took our study group.
Okay, well maybe that helped her.
Yeah, and then like the one I mentioned earlier, it was actually the CPOA. We can have it in the BABAC as well, where they get it, 3, 4, 6 months after the study group ends. So it's all about what priority you make it in your life, and certainly studying is a lot easier to do if you don't have little kids running around the house and you don't have those family responsibilities. The kids are really dependent upon you, and that you can make it a higher priority. You can spend more time studying and everything and go and get it. It's certainly possible to do with those students and that. We got one chapter leader and that's got young kids and that he's like traveling somewhere. He says football, baseball, dance. So he's got a girl. Everywhere he's going, 3, 4, 5 nights a week. So we certainly understand that.
All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Much easier to say it than type it all out.
So we hope to see you in the study group. I know Anne has been communicating to like 3 or 4 of you via email and everything. And I know you were here to get that discount code, which Anne has shared with you, to get into that study group. It does start in just a couple of weeks, September 22nd. It finishes before Thanksgiving. So we wanted to get it finished before the holidays and everything. So you can enjoy Thanksgiving and Christmas, New Year's with your family and that. So we do finish it mid November.
What about I know Watermark gives I know you guys have quizzes, but that helps me to take tests over and over again and learn from them. I think I had read there was a discount if we join the group too with Watermark if we wanted to get their 90-day testing application?
You know what? I'm gonna ask them about that. I don't know if they have discounts for that. We will purchase, if you're going for the CBAP or the CCBA, we purchased a watermark study guide for you. It's built into the pricing of the study group. So don't go out and buy that yourself. You'll
Okay, I just bought the book.
study group. You just bought the book. And on the inside cover of that, you get a 5-day subscription to that. So that comes with, you know, the
Okay.
book and everything. They do have 30, 60, and 90-day subscriptions. I think for the CBAP, 30 days is like $99. That's what it used to be. I hope it's about that same price. They certainly are helpful. I love that I did that when I, you know, purchased that before. It's certainly worthwhile, and I always recommend take as many study or practice exams as you can. You know, you will always have ours. I mean, we have 3 practice tests and a practice exam as part of the study group. Those links are always active, and that you can always retake ours. But it's the same set of questions. And
Yeah, I was gonna say, does it change?
yeah, so the watermark learning, you can take it chapter by chapter, or you can concentrate on techniques or things of that nature. And that you could do what they call drills or tests or a simulated exam. And so it's a really good online practice test platform. And I do recommend it, although that is extra cost, you know, to you. All right. Did we have any other questions? I haven't.
I don't see anything in the chat.
I haven't got any pop-ups.
Apologies, I lost
we've had any
connectivity. Oh.
registrations for the study group, unless I've missed them. So, and that, and also again, what I did put in the chat earlier, let me see if I can find it again. If you're wondering which of the 3 certifications you could go for, this is a little, it'll suggest a certification that might be appropriate for you at this point in your career. And again, they're not a staircase. You don't have to get the ECBA first, then the CCBA and CBAP. If you've got 5 years experience and you qualify for the CBAP, go get that one first. And or you know, get that one and get all 3 of the or 4 of the specialized one, and you're an all pro. All right, we're
All right.
that's time. Lost connectivity for a moment. I know Sharia.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, Sharia. I'm dialing in from Atlanta, and my apologies. I lost connectivity, so I had to dial back in. And I'm apologies in advance if this has been asked already. But what would you, I guess, what would be the recommendation as far as like study time dedicated? I'm looking into maybe obtaining the ECBA. So very entry level. So like what's the recommended like dedication time? I am also looking at joining the study group because I tend to do better with a study group versus like self-paced, but just kind of want to get an idea of what that commitment would be like, and you know, what would be, I guess, like the preparation level after completing the study guide or like the study group to be able to test for the ECBA.
Meredith or Ann, you want to take it?
I can take that. Mine was very similar to Meredith's. I personally read the BABIC cover to cover probably at least 5 times, and it's a 500-page plus textbook. So it's, you know, for some of us who have, you know, it's been 35 years since I've had to sit for any type of exam like that. So it, you know, it was a little bit more difficult to get back into those studying habits. So depending on what your learning style is also, I mean, some of us are very, you know, visual people. Some of us learn kinesthetically. Some of us are audio people. So, depending how you learn, for me, I also am very much like Meredith. I had to read it, recite it, take notes, organize the information in a way that made sense to me. So because of that, my studying, I probably took 2 to 3 months after the study group ended before I felt like I was prepared to take the exam. I did a lot of reading and a lot of note taking and a lot of flashcards and a lot of tables and things like that. So I did put quite a bit of information or quite a bit of time into trying to organize that information in a way that made sense for me.
Okay. So I know you'll get a welcome email when you register for the study group and that. And I believe in there, we recommend like 2 to 3 hours per week, plus the 2.5 hours that you're in the session, the study session with all the students and the instructor. So again, it really depends your place in life. Do you have time to do that? What other family commitments do you have? Do you have the little rugrats running around and they're dependent upon you? I've recommended in the past, if you have that, you can ask your significant other to take a little family responsibility off of you for 3 months. Let me get this certification. And then after that, we'll go back to normal and that. And when you do that, make sure when you celebrate after you get the certification and that, make sure that significant other is part of that celebration and that, because they helped you.
Awesome, great, thank you.
So welcome from Atlanta.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and I think Aaron posted his LinkedIn information in the chat. I can post mine as well. If you guys have any follow-up questions and you just want to reach out or connect, please feel free to do that. We're always happy to help. And that's something as part of the study group as well. All of the instructors are very open with their contact information and we take emails and phone calls and text messages outside of the study groups. And so, we want, your success is our success. So please feel free to connect with us in any way possible. And we're excited to help you guys along in the journey. So we're rounding out the top of the hour. If there are no further questions, I think we should probably be respectful of everybody's time and let everybody go grab a quick bite to eat before returning to work, if that's where you're at in your Friday. So again, thank you everybody for joining us today. Meredith, thank you so much for joining us today and being our host, our spotlight.
Yes,
and
thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And we will send that email out tomorrow with a recording. And we look forward to seeing you guys in our upcoming study group.
Thank you.
Remember, you have 1 week to register with that discount code.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Thank you guys. Have a good weekend.
Thank
Seeing
you.
some thank yous there in the chat as well. So glad
You're all very welcome.
enjoy, have a very happy weekend.